Hello and welcome to Keto Life Support. This is Kim Howerton. How you doing? Just a little intro today because I have a request. This podcast has been, thus far, a real labor of love, and we have loved doing it, and we hope that you love listening. And to continue the podcast, we could use a little bit of help. So I have two things, actually, we need help with. The first is financial. If you get benefit from this podcast and you'd like to contribute $1 or $2 a month or more, there is a way to do that. If you go to ketolifesupport.com, there will be a Patreon link to my Patreon page, The Ketonist, where you can just give us a little tip, or you can sign up for a larger amount where you get benefit back beyond just knowing that you're a good person. And you're a good person whether you give us money or not, I promise. But if you want to keep the wheels on this particular bus, we'd love it if you could go and do that. And the second request is non-financial, which is if there's a topic you'd like to hear us talk about, whether that is from me or Ken Berry or Nisha Berry, who is coming back, by the way. Baby Barry can't talk yet, so he will not be guest starring, but maybe in the future. And, or Carrie Brown, or maybe there's somebody you'd like to hear us talk to, that's not in that list thus far. If you have topics that you want us to address on this show, tell us about it. You can do that. The best place to do it is actually on our Facebook page. Yes, we have a Facebook page. We actually have a Facebook group. It's a group, not a page. Sorry. But you can find that link again at ketolifesupport.com. And in that group, just let us know what you'd like to hear us talk about. So thank you so much for listening to my requests. And I will get this show started now. So stay tuned for the actual show. Hi, welcome to Keto Life Support, where we make your keto life sustainable, fun, and low stress. I'm Kim Howerton from theketonist.com, and I'll be coming to you weekly with some of my keto besties to bring you the practical, real-world keto advice that you need. Quick disclaimer, I am not a doctor, and even if we have a doctor in the house, he or she is not your doctor, and nothing on this show should be taken as medical advice. Always check with a trusted medical professional about your personal medical concerns.
What have you been up to today? Here you had a fabulous chat with Robert Cywus.
Yeah. Dr. Cywus and I had I love that guy. We had a great discussion about carbohydrate addiction, sugar addiction, food addiction, and it's on my Facebook page and on my YouTube channel. So If anybody wants to watch it, they can find it at either place. And then also earlier today, I posted a new YouTube video about kind of a high blood pressure warning alert. Mm-hmm. And it's really for new people. Everybody that follows you will already know everything I talk about. But the reason I made that video is so you can share it with your uncle or your mother-in-law and say, look, here's this doctor saying that, your immune system's actually stronger if you stop eating these foods. So it's a shareable video for people who follow you because they'll already know all the basic stuff. But it might help mama or daddy or the next door neighbor to go, oh, okay, I haven't thought about it like that.
Got it. I had a general question come up about these situations when you're in this place where you're trying to help your mom or your dad, and maybe they're probably, most of my viewers, moms and dads, are in their 60s to 80s. And their doctor is giving them complete opposite information.
Yep.
And maybe your mom or dad isn't keto.
Yep.
And so you're kind of in this weird place. Like, I had this question come in where a woman's dad just had his gallbladder removed. His doctor has told him that he has chronic pancreatitis and is suggesting he go on a low density, low salt diet. I don't know what a low density diet is.
I don't know what that is either, but what I would do is if the daughter or son could go with dad to the next doctor's appointment and say, we're confused about the diet. Do you have a handout, about this diet? And then hopefully the doctor would say yes. Otherwise, they're really just blowing smoke up your butt. They just pull that out of nowhere.
Right.
And then when you get the handout and you can look over it and then say, well, okay, could you print me out a copy or just a link to the research that shows that somebody with no gallbladder and chronic pancreatitis, that this is the diet they should eat? Is there any research that, shows that? I know there's no randomized controlled trials, but is there any kind of research or anything that would show that this is the diet that my dad should eat? And I think you'll probably hit a brick wall there, and they'll say, well, no, I'm just telling you, I'm the doctor. That's what they should eat. But you open that conversation up.
Right.
And then you can start asking other questions after that question. Once they've revealed, no, there is no research. And so and then you would say something very respectfully like, so that's just your learned opinion then. That's your opinion that's the diet he should eat, but we don't really know that, right? Mm-hmm. And then you could start saying, well, what about eggs? Are eggs bad? Could he have eggs? What about, and don't say bacon, and don't say
avocado.
Keto. Yeah, don't say keto, don't say bacon. Say, what about avocado? Is that okay? And almost every doctor will say, yes, that's okay, because that's a plant, right? Mm-hmm. And so then before long, you'll have this doctor agreeing to all kinds of keto-friendly foods that then when you get home, can say, here, Dad, I got you some avocados, and I got you some eggs, and I got you some, and you can just really start to feed your dad the keto food, even though the doctor thinks that your dad's on a low, what did you say, low density?
Low density, which is like a diet. That's all I can think. Like, not a lot of calories.
I would guess that's probably full of whole grains and full of rice and full of potatoes, but I've never actually heard of that before.
Yeah. Okay. Mike says he Googled it, and when they say low density diet, they're talking about energy density.
Okay. So lots of fiber and lots of protein then?
It's very nebulous what the hell he means, actually. I don't. Yeah. Okay. So that seems like generally good advice, but this is a position so many of us are in, especially with the salt and what people should eat, and chronic pancreatitis is something that could be turned around pretty rapidly with a proper human diet, right?
Absolutely. And chronic pancreatitis can lead to type 1 diabetes, and it can also lead to pancreatic cancer if you continue to barrage your liver and your pancreas with too many carbohydrates, too many processed carbohydrates.
Right.
That can absolutely batter your pancreas even further.
Right. So Tony asked a question. Can you go from a type 2 to a type 1 diabetic? Thank you. Please help.
Yes, that is possible. And we usually call that LADA, right, for the late onset of type 1. And so type 2 diabetes is a completely different animal. In type 2 diabetes, you're still making insulin. You're still making lots of insulin most of the time, but you're eating too many carbohydrates for the amount of insulin that you're making. But there are some people who will develop LADA later in life, and their beta cells will stop making insulin. And that's yet another reason why everyone with prediabetes or diabetes needs a C-peptide.
Right.
Because if you check a C-peptide and your doctor thinks you're a type 2, but then your C-peptide's almost 0, you're a type 1. And so your doctor, if your doctor just assumes, well, you're an older adult, I'm sure it's type 2, and they put you on a couple of different pills for type 2 diabetes, they're not helping you at all. Those pills don't help you at all if you're, in fact, a type 1 diabetic. But if the C-peptide is within normal limits or it's high, elevated, then you're definitely a type 2 diabetic. And that one test immediately pulls back the curtain, and you know exactly what kind of type of diabetic you are. But then that also tells you how to proceed. Because if you're a type 1, you're going to need some insulin. That's just how it is. And that's not bad if you're a type 1. We all need insulin. But if you're a type 2 diabetic and your doctor's trying to put you on insulin, then that's entirely inappropriate. That's, in my opinion, borderline malpractice. Mm-hmm. You just need to lower your carbohydrates and your A1C will come back to normal.
Yeah. And I mean, so the answer to Tony's question could actually be yes, no, maybe. Like there are, because it could be that your type 2 was misdiagnosed.
Right. And all those things are possible and they've all happened. Yeah. There are many type 1 diabetics who are falsely diagnosed as a type 2 because of their age or because of their body fat percentage, right? If you're so if you're 30 and fat, your doctor is automatically going to think you're type 2 diabetic, but you may not be. The only way to know definitively yes or no is to get a C peptide checked. That number will tell you if you're type 1 or type 2, and also will tell you if you are a type 2, how too many carbohydrates you're still eating. It's a very powerful lab test. A lot of doctors have never heard of it. And so,
and it's not a CRP.
That's right. It's not a CRP. It's not a C-reactive protein. It's a C peptide. And if your doctor's never heard of that test, then that's good that you bring it up because now you're going to help that doctor to help all his or her other patients who are also being mismanaged by not having that lab result in their chart.
Right. Laurel says, my husband had cancer surgery in January. Hope he's doing well, Laurel. He wants to do keto, but he can't afford to lose any weight. Can he still do keto?
Yeah. So the ketogenic way of eating is not a weight loss diet. It is a weight optimization diet. I've actually seen people who were underweight gain weight on keto. Okay? Keto is going to move you towards your ideal body weight. That's what it's going to do. So the majority of us are overweight, and so it's going to tend to make us lose fat. But if you're severely underweight and your muscle percentage is very low and your bone density is low, then eating a ketogenic diet full of real whole ingredients and lots of fatty meat, that's going to help you put on muscle. And it's going to help you increase your bone density, and it'll actually make the scale say that you're heavier, even though you're not putting on fat necessarily, unless you need some fat, because we all need a little bit of fat. But it is a weight optimization way of eating. That's the actual way to think about keto. It's going to move you towards your ideal body weight, whether that's up or down.
Right. And, there is, if you find that he is not gaining as much weight or he's losing weight, potentially he might be still just unintentionally under eating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he gets to eat until he's stuffed every meal. Yeah. And then if he's still not gaining weight, if you want him to gain fat, then feed him more carbohydrates because that absolutely will put some fat on him. But if you don't want him to lose his muscle mass and you don't want him to lose his bone density, he's got to eat lots of fatty meat. He's got to drink lots of bone broth and eat lots of eggs and all the other things that we enjoy on the keto way of eating.
Yeah. All right. So everyone has said that low density diet, they've looked it up. Fruit, veg, lean protein, low fat dairy. It's a low fat diet.
So it's basically the same diet they recommend for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Denise wants you to address quinine in tonic water. I know you did a post about it. Do you want to just very briefly say something?
Yeah. So, okay. And so let me tell you a doctor story so that you'll understand how I even knew this. So years ago, there was a prescription for quinine, and it worked amazingly for nighttime leg cramps. That was way before I knew about magnesium, potassium, and all that stuff. And so almost all of my older patients, especially if they were on a diuretic, I would give them a quinine prescription, and they would take one at bedtime to keep the nighttime leg cramps down, right? So this new medicine, it was super cheap. Like you get a 90-day supply for $4 or something because it was so old. And it was actually one of the old medications that had gotten grandfathered in with the FDA. It was not FDA approved, but it had been around for so long, they said, yeah, it's fine. Well, this new medication came along that spent the millions of dollars to get the FDA approval, and they took the right people at the FDA to lunch, right? And all of a sudden, now quinine is off the market. It is no longer generally recognized as safe. And so you can't get it at any pharmacy anymore. And so I had all these patients having all these cramps, and this was back in 2004. I didn't know about magnesium and potassium and all the stuff we talk about now. And so I was looking for some alternative, and I found out that tonic water contains quinine. And so I did some research, and I'm like, gosh, there's this tiny amount. Like maybe if you drink 5 liters of tonic water right before bedtime, that might give you enough.
Older people should not probably drink that much liquid right before they go to bed.
Exactly, and so I was hoping I had found something for my patients. Now, 50 years ago, tonic water had a ton of quinine in it, but quinine is a poison if you don't know. And so if you drank too many gin and tonics back in the day, it wasn't just the bathtub alcohol that killed you; it was also the quinine, because if you drank too much of it. And so they now there is a tiny bit of quinine in tonic water. I mean, a tiny bit. And so literally you'd have to drink 5, 6, 7 liters at bedtime in order to quiet your cramps. But then you'd be up every 30 minutes peeing all night. And you still wouldn't sleep. Plus you'd get hundreds of grams of carbohydrates because tonic water is full of sugar. See, and so that's why there's a doctor. I saw a video. Somebody shared it with me. This doctor's like, there's a ton of quinine in tonic water, and quinine is very close to chloroquine, which is technically true, chemically structured. But I mean, you would literally be getting hundreds of grams of carbs. You would destroy your innate immune system trying to use the tiny amount of quinine to prevent this thing that we won't name, that everybody's worried about. It's idiotic what the guy was saying. And so I had to I didn't mention him by name, but I made a post on my Facebook page, and I kind of did the math. You're not going to get enough quinine unless you're drinking probably 20, 30 liters a day. It's not going to help at all. Don't do that.
Right. And they have diet tonic water, like Zevia makes one, but you're still not going to get enough. No,
you're going to have to drink 20 or 30 liters every single day to get enough quinine to even approach the therapeutic level of chloroquine that might actually help. Because we don't even know if quinine is going to help. That's a theory. That's a hypothesis. There's no research that shows that that's going to help. So you're going to be getting an ass load of carbs, and you're going to be going to the bathroom every 5 minutes, and you're probably not going to help prevent anything anyway. So don't do that.
And spending a lot of money. Yes. Yes. All right. So Becky asked, do you have any thoughts on hyperbaric oxygen therapy for immune system issues?
Yeah, hyperbaric oxygen is a very seductive theory, and I think it probably is good for you in many different ways. Problem is, it's very, very expensive. Unless you got money in the bank like Michael Jackson, you probably can't afford a home unit. And then hospitals are really finicky about who they let get in their chamber. They want it to be people who are really, really sick. And so, yeah, it is probably a thing for a few diagnoses. And a lot of the life extension people really believe in it. And there probably is some science backing it up. But I can't afford a unit at home, and I'm not going to trick the hospital into letting me get in their chamber just for life extension. But
in some areas, like in my area, there are publicly available ones, but they are still very expensive.
Yeah, if you can afford it, wear it out. Yeah, but I mean, it's not worth the money.
Yeah. So Kimberly wrote in, Kimberly, I talked about your dad in the beginning of this video, so go back and watch. Said that added to the situation that he is a type 2 diabetic, which we probably could have figured out.
Yeah, low carb keto carnivore is absolutely what he needs to be doing. But obviously you need to have a conversation with him and his doctor, and maybe share a YouTube video or two with him.
Yeah. Okay. Lots of diet tonic water. What? I don't know, Jim. I don't know what you're talking about. Sorry, I'm getting cryptic questions. Is Dr. Berry 8 feet tall? Yes, he in fact is. He is one of the few people that when I'm next to him, I'm like, I'm so little. He's not actually 8 feet tall, but he is very tall.
Yeah.
Okay. Cynthia just said she's nauseous. Cynthia, I don't know how to help you. Have you tried a pinch of salt under your tongue, and maybe you have an illness?
Yeah, maybe some sugar-free tonic water. Just kidding.
Yeah. No. Okay. Run out to the store. No, bad idea. Bad idea. Apparently you can get quinine pills on Amazon. Don't order medicine that is illegal on Amazon. Just going to say it.
Somebody said they were sold out because of this doctor's video. But I'm just telling you guys, there is no research that shows that quinine is equivalent to chloroquine or hydroxychloroquine. There's no research. Okay. So this would be the same thing as saying, oh, if you'll drink a cup of stump water every day, that'll prevent you from getting the C word. Yeah, okay, that's nice, but there's no proof of that. So I wouldn't waste my money or time.
Right. And bad things have seemed to happen when people are trying to self-medicate in various ways.
Yeah.
If you're saying, maybe this is a good time to take a little vitamin C or maybe some vitamin D, I don't know that that's going to hurt anybody, but I don't know that I would try alternative therapies.
Make sure you're getting plenty of vitamin A in your diet, zinc in your diet, and vitamin D in your diet. And I've got YouTube videos about all three, the good, rich food sources of those vitamins and the mineral. They are vital for your immune system function. And then also, the lower carbohydrate diet you eat, the stronger your immune system's going to be. Got a YouTube video about that too.
Right. Okay. Sorry. Cynthia now has made her question make sense. Zinc, she says zinc makes her nauseous, question mark. Question? Some
few people it does. And so I would say stop taking a zinc supplement. Watch my YouTube video about zinc rich foods and just eat one or two of those foods every day. You're going to get plenty of zinc. If you insist on taking a supplement, a good little trick is to take it, get in bed, lay down, take your zinc, swallow it, go to bed, go to sleep. If nausea is your only symptom, right? And a lot of that's a good trick for any pill that makes you nauseous. Take it at bedtime and go to sleep, and you don't know you're nauseous because you're asleep.
Got it. Yeah. Back in the day, they used to suggest zinc lozenges when you were getting a cold. Right. Those made me super nauseous. But not a supplement, like a pill doesn't.
Yeah. I think I used to use those too. I used to believe that somehow prevented a cold or something.
Yeah. And they just made me so nauseous. Oh. Yeah. Okay. So a couple of questions are coming in, and maybe this is a good time to address this. People are like, wait, but this doctor said that this was good, but this other doctor said that was good. And it is true. There are many opinions among people with medical licenses. How should people navigate these waters when they're getting so much information overload?
Yeah, it's a great question. And so what I would look for is so we'll just take the doctor, the tonic water doctor. I don't know his name. I can't remember. Okay. But did he list any links to research studies in his Facebook video show notes? I didn't look. He might have. He may prove me out to be a dummy. There may be 14 studies that he linked to. But I would say that anybody that doesn't link to a study that you can click on and then go read, and don't just say, oh, well, they linked to a study, therefore it must be true. Actually go read at least the conclusion or at least the abstract of the study. Because I've seen doctors and other gurus link to a study, and the vegans are notorious for this. Dr. Greger, he's the world champion at this. He'll link to some study and say, see, this study by so-and-so shows a blah, 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 blah. And then if you actually take the time to go look at the study, you're like, this doesn't have anything to do with what he was even talking about. This is just a random study he linked to. It might have the key word in the title, but it doesn't in any way prove what he was trying to say it proved. And so that's how you kind of know. And that's why in most of my YouTube videos and down in the show notes, if I talk about anything sciencey, nutrition-y or medically at all, I've got research links down in the notes that you can go click and look at them and say, oh, yeah, okay, there you go. Or, no, Barry's full of crap. This doesn't have anything to do with what he was talking about. That, to me, that's the best way. First of all, do you trust that person? Have you been listening to them long enough, or did they just pop up on your Facebook feed because of a sponsored post, right? That I obviously wouldn't just listen to somebody randomly that I don't have any experience with.
Right.
But if you have a relationship and trust that person, and people you know and trust also trust that person, that matters because we're all a tribe here. If I was full of crap, I guarantee you Kim Howerton would not have me on her channel because we love each other, but she's a smart cat. And she'd be like, yeah, I'm not feeling good tonight. We'll maybe do a live coming up soon.
Let's have the baby on again.
Right, exactly. And she would not let me talk to you guys if she didn't trust me and what I say. And I'm telling you, I know Kim Howerton. There are people who'd love to be on her Facebook page. And she's like, yeah, maybe next week. I'm really booked up this week. Maybe we'll try. We'll see about it in the future. And she never has them on because she does not believe what they're saying is true. And so all the same kind of social cues that you would use in real life. What do your friends say? If your friends have tried what this doctor's saying, are they getting results? All those things matter. And so, but then ultimately it's down to the research.
Right. And I think Dr. Berry had that point is excellent because I've been around Dr. Berry when he's researching. He's like head down. He's got like 2 books out. He's like, he watches this and then he watched that. And then he's making notes and they're like, he looks like a crazy scientist with the whiteboard so and then he puts the links in the things. And if your doctor or the doctor you're listening to isn't saying that's something to be concerned about. And somebody might say something like a doctor you trust might say something like, oh yeah, I think quinine's a good idea. And like, in the course of their talking, like they haven't really looked into it, but it seems like a good idea. And Dr. Berry just said, it might be a good idea, but let's discuss the problems with tonic water. So, right. So they may not disagree with what Dr. Berry is saying. They just haven't looked into how much quinine is actually in tonic water. Let's look at that detail.
Exactly. 85 milligrams per liter, I think, is how much it is in Schweppes. And they all vary a little bit, but that's one of the big national brands. And that's not enough to even get you to first base if you drink the whole liter.
Right. It's tasty with a little lime, but,
and a little gin.
Right. Dennis asked, what is a normal blood insulin level and how do you get it checked? I know I'm still insulin resistant, but I'd like to know how to get it close to normal. Down 92 pounds, and 10 inches around, and a size 52 to a size 42.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
Good job. Yeah.
Yeah, very nice. So you go see your doctor and you ask for a fasting insulin level. And I would also definitely ask for a C-peptide because that's going to give you more of a long-term look at what your insulin levels are. If both of those numbers are within normal limits, and most of the people in our sphere of influence say that you want your fasting insulin to be under 10. And I think that's a pretty darn good goal. And then your C-peptide needs to be at least within normal limits of whatever your reference lab says it is because it's different. Now, if your doctor refuses to order those 2 tests, and that might happen because a lot of doctors don't know how powerful those tests are, then you can use a lab test, an online lab like TrueHealthLabs.com, and Kim knows a couple others.
Ulta Labs, there's a bunch, yeah.
Yep. And you can pay them a fee, and then they'll send you an order. You take that order to just any local lab. They draw your blood and send it to that lab, and you can bypass your doctor. And I think that's perfectly fine to do. I don't recommend you bypass your doctor when it comes to medications or things like that, like buying quinine on Amazon. Don't do that. Because quinine, it used to be a prescription medication. You don't take that willy-nilly. It can have consequences. But getting a lab test ordered, you're never going to hurt yourself doing that. All you're going to wind up having is more information, which is usually a good thing.
And I would say, do your research. Talk to Dr. Berry and I before you order any expensive tests. Because some people out there will tell you if you get your genetic microgut biomed, then you can know everything about how you should eat and every illness you may ever get.
Right. Yeah. There are lab tests out there being advertised that are a stupid waste of money. Okay. I'm not saying that every lab test will give you valuable information, but I'm saying these lab tests will give you valuable information. I saw somebody advertising it's like it's a DNA. So I guess they take your 23andMe data and they can tell you how many carbs you're supposed to eat and how much protein. That's idiotic. We are all human beings. We all need to eat a low-carb diet. There is no genetic predisposition to eating a high-carb diet. That does not exist. I can just tell you right now.
No. And I've seen some people out there in the keto sphere be getting very into this idea, and I'm like, waste of money.
Waste of money.
Okay. So Dennis, there's one thing I did want to mention. I don't know if you know about this, Ken, and I will tell people it's not always the cheapest option, but ownyourlabs.com. Ownyourlabs.com has been set up by Dave Feldman and Siobhan Huggins.
Nice.
So you can log in and order whatever test you want. Now you can check the pricing against other people.
Yep.
The good news about Own Your Labs is all of the profits go into funding low-carb studies.
Nice. Would you put a link in the show notes for that?
I will.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. and the best deals for them are on cholesterol tests because, as you can guess, Feldman does a lot of cholesterol testing. So anyway, that's if you want to do a little contribution as you buy something for yourself, that's an option.
Perfect.
Okay, so Ellen brings up. Oh, it just jumped. Where did it go? Oh, Ellen brings up the low-fat vegans as an issue. So I know Ellen says no. I know vegans who eat all the stuff, all the carbs, and very, very low fat, like under 10%.
Mm-hmm.
They lose a lot of weight. She says, and are healthy. Does that mean one size doesn't fit all? And I would say they lose weight and are healthy are not synonymous.
Exactly. Yeah, you can definitely lose weight by semi-starvation on any diet. There's no doubt about that. I could bring you to Tennessee and lock you in my barn and just feed you cardboard and water. You'd lose a bunch of weight, right? But that wouldn't make you healthy. And what I see a lot in the skinny vegans is if you actually check their A1C and check their C-peptide and check their fasting insulin and check their liver function numbers.
And their sex hormones.
And you check their testosterone level and their thyroid levels, they are not healthy at all. They're skinny, yeah. But that just because you're skinny doesn't mean you're healthy. I totally don't think those two are not synonymous. Eating the proper human diet and losing fat, that will get you healthier, no doubt. But just because somebody's skinny doesn't mean they're healthy. In Asia and India, for example, almost everybody's skinny, right? But they have an epidemic of fatty liver and prediabetes and type 2 diabetes in India and in Asia because that's how their genes express eating too many carbohydrates. But if you just look at them walking on the street, you're like, all they eat is rice and potatoes and they almost never eat meat and they're all healthy. No, they're all skinny, but they're all skinny on the outside and they're fat on the inside. They got fatty liver and they got prediabetes. They're not healthy, but they are skinny.
Right. And biochemically, there is evidence that shows that if you keep the fat super low on a high carb diet, people can lose weight just because of how this works. When they look at those on a long-term basis, people can't stick to that diet.
Right.
So I think the rate is like 87% of vegans stop being vegan. Like it's very high. That people that can't keep it up.
Yeah, the vegan diet is a fad diet. There has never been a successful society in the history of humanity that ate a vegan diet for a reason. You can't sustain it. It's very expensive to eat that way, and you're definitely going to be deficient in a long list of vitamins, minerals, and fatty acids, and potentially amino acids if you don't eat a wide spectrum of vegan foods and take a bunch of supplements. It's not a natural, normal diet. It's a fad.
Well, I will say this. So I know many people who were at one time vegan, one of which is actually the vegan nutritionist that helped on Super Size Me, right? Mm-hmm. So to cure his fatty liver and all these problems from eating this terrible fast food diet, put him on a vegan diet, right? And it is actually true that if you put somebody on a terrible fast food, seed oil based diet to a vegan whole foods diet,
Yep.
their health does improve
Yep.
from where they were.
Right.
But case after case after case of these people who go vegan have some health improvements. Their skin looks better, their health, they feel better. They've stopped poisoning themselves because they're eating real whole foods.
Exactly.
Couple of years down the line, the vegan diet catches up with them and they cannot continue and be a healthy person. They lose their period, their hair starts falling out, they start having massive depression because because the nutritional deficiencies are catching up with them.
Yep. And I'll give you guys a little heads up. There is a huge vegan influencer who's about to come out of the closet. She actually worked on another very famous vegan plant-based movie that's recently was the talk of the town, and she and I have been chatting on a back channel, and she has already started eating meat and is almost completely a carnivore now, and says she feels 1,000% better. That's quote. But she's got to get, because she's legally and financially bound up with the vegan community, and so she's breaking financial and legal ties so she can protect her income. And then she and I are going to do probably a Facebook, YouTube live, and she's going to come out that she's now almost 100% carnivore and feels better than she's felt in over a decade. And this is going to be huge, Kim, but I can't tell you who it is yet because I got to let her get all of her ducks in a row.
Well, just like I said, that woman who was the vegan nutritionist had to go paleo to get her period back and to feel okay and all these things. And this woman's name is Alex. And because she'd been in the vegan community so long, it was like nothing but death threats and a lot of vitriol.
Yeah. Yeah. The vegan diet is not a healthy diet. It is a pseudo-religious, fad, cultish kind of diet. And I mean, they literally will kill each other if they say, hey, I got to eat some meat. I feel really bad. They'll death threat each other in a second. And, on keto, if you want to go eat some cookies, okay, whatever, it's probably bad for you, but, we're still going to love you. But not so in the vegan community, man. They will ostracize you and kick you out of the tribe real quick.
Right. So Katie would like to ask, what health problems does high insulin cause? She's not really aware.
Yeah, all of them.
Yeah.
So all of them. So literally everything, Katie, from dandruff to rosacea to eczema to psoriasis to fatty liver to thyroid problems to heart problems, AFib, heart failure, heart attack, type 2 diabetes, prediabetes, pancreatitis. Literally, I'm just going down the human body. Cancer, all the arthritides, bowel
immune conditions.
Yeah, literally every chronic disease that used to be very, very rare 100 years ago, like a doctor might see 1 or 2 cases a year of it, but now that is very, very common. That is from eating a diet that causes you to be chronically hyperinsulinemic. Most of the autoimmune conditions, Alzheimer's, dementia, all those things are intimately related to hyperinsulinemia.
Right. And Katie follows up with, is that just as bad as having high glucose levels? And I would say that high glucose is actually a downstream effect, right?
Yeah, and they're both bad for you. And Jason Fung, Dr. Fung, is the one who, a few years back, I was listening to a lecture of his, and he talked about this medical study in which they took type 2 diabetics. And because back then we were like, well, as long as we keep your blood sugar under 300, that's probably fine. And these researchers said, no, I really feel like we should aggressively try to control type 2 diabetics' blood sugar. And the way they did that was not with diet. They did it with medicines and with insulin and pills, right? And so all of the pills and the insulin injections that they studied in this study skyrocketed your insulin. They did bring down the blood sugar, but what they found is that the outcome is just as bad, whether you've got high blood sugar or high insulin. It was just as bad. They're both bad. And so what you want to do is eat a diet that's low enough in carbohydrates that fixes your blood sugar. Then you don't have to take a pill that works by raising your insulin. That makes sense?
Right.
And so a lot of doctors took the wrong message from that study. They didn't hear, oh, you're just eating too many carbs. What they heard was, oh, we don't need to aggressively control your blood sugar. And that's why a lot of doctors, even to this day, will say, as long as your A1C is under 7, that's perfectly fine. That is an echo of the lie that came out of that study. They misunderstood that study. And I think Dr. Fung was one of the very first people that understood the true connotations of that study. And I can remember I was sitting in the floor of the farmhouse, Kim, watching that and it was like I got goosebumps. I was like, shit, that's it. That's it. It's not just hyperglycemia that's bad. It's also hyperinsulinemia.
Yeah.
That's also bad. Boom. I've never thought of it that way. And like literally Jason Fung reached into my little brain and flipped my paradigm. And I was like, whoa. Yeah. That was the moment. I can remember that day. And I probably made 3 YouTube videos back to back about that after that. Cause I was like, man, that's powerful. That's it right there.
Nice. Paulette says, is carnivore hurtful to your eyes? I wonder if that's about some of the AREDS stuff, those vitamins that can be helpful for your eyes.
Yeah, there's nothing in a carnivore diet that's going to harm your vision in any way. A good carnivore diet with some organ meat in it is going to give your eyes every vitamin and mineral, every amino acid, every fatty acid that your eyes and your retina and your brain needs to optimize your vision. There's the thing that's going to cause you to have macular degeneration prematurely is eating too many carbohydrates. And I actually have 2 YouTube videos about macular degeneration. The same thing goes for cataracts in the lens. That's just glycation of the proteins in the lens. That comes from eating too many carbohydrates. Obviously, diabetic retinopathy comes from eating too many carbohydrates. It's all about cutting down the carbohydrates. Now, whether you eat a low-carb keto diet or a carnivore diet, I don't really care because you're going to get great health benefits from either one of them. But if you decide to go carnivore, there's nothing there that's going to harm your eyes in any way.
Yeah. I think, there was some research done about certain vitamins and minerals and certain types of leafy greens and certain peppers or things.
Yeah.
But that was shown to be helpful for your eyes if you ate a standard diet.
Right.
They've yet to study a carnivore diet.
And in my first macular degeneration video, I mentioned spinach. And I post a link to that study. But basically, you can get everything that you get in spinach from meat, 100%, right? And
more available.
That's exactly right. But probably the reason people who ate lots of spinach had better vision was because of not that they were eating the spinach, but what were they not eating in place of the spinach? And I don't think spinach is bad, but I think meat's better.
Right. There's also this healthy user bias issue where a person that tends to eat things like spinach tends to also take care of their health in other ways because they tend to follow rules they hear are good for their health. Yep,
exactly.
It's not the spinach, it's the behavior that causes them to eat the spinach.
Yeah. They're also not smoking. They're also not drinking a fifth of whiskey. They're also not smoking crack. They're also going for a walk every day, if not something else. Yeah, they're just a healthier person if they're eating spinach, because the average unhealthy person, if you say, hey, you want some spinach? They're going to be like, yeah, I hate spinach. Yeah. I want chicken strips and ketchup.
That's right.
Yeah.
Honey mustard.
Yeah.
Cheryl says that she's lost 110 pounds in the last 20 months. Her blood sugar is 4.1. So that would be the European numbers. Yeah. Her doctor is suggesting she should stop. She's now almost carnivore. Is her blood sugar too low?
No such thing. If you have a normal C-peptide, which I'm sure you do, but make sure your doctor checks one, then your liver is going to make all the glucose that your body needs. And your pancreas is going to make just as much insulin as it needs to keep the glucose right where it needs to be. The average glucose numbers that doctors look at every day come from a sick population that's eating too many carbohydrates. And so for the average doctor, they think 110 is normal, because that's the lowest they've seen in 6 months, because everybody has hyperglycemia and hyperinsulinemia. That's not normal. You want your blood sugar lower than that.
Yeah. Ellen has said, not so fast, Kim. They do keep vegan up. Dr. John McDougall would contradict the statement you made that it's not sustainable. Many who follow him do keep it up. I'm trying to understand, not be argumentative. Totally understand, Ellen. Yeah. Here's the deal. Like, a small percentage of the population will do anything. So, yes, but the majority of people can't keep it up.
Right.
And Dr. Berry.
And I want you to find a recent video of Dr. McDougall.
He doesn't look good.
It's terrible. And I feel bad for Dr. McDougall. I would love to sneak over to his house and put some cod liver in his, what do you call the garbanzo bean that you dip?
Hummus.
Yeah, in his hummus. I'd love to slip some cod liver in his hummus, because he looks terrible, and he sound like he almost sounds like Joe Biden a little bit. Like he's not healthy. And so I have great respect for him, because I think a vegan diet's better than the standard American diet, but he's not looking well at all. And so, yeah.
Yeah. So, and we just come from a different paradigm. I'm going to say, Ellen, he's going to have a small percentage of people that continue to follow him, whether or not it's doing them good. Yeah. Because veganism can be very political and religious.
Yeah.
And, there are people that follow some religions that cause some real big health problems.
Yep. And we'll just take vitamin A, for example. There is no vitamin A in plants at all. None. Zero. There is no vitamin A in carrots, in sweet potatoes, and spinach, pumpkin squash, none. There's no vitamin A. There's beta-carotene and carotenoids. Some people, the majority of people, cannot absorb carotenoids very well. And they also can't convert carotenoids into real retinol vitamin A. Mm-hmm. So many vegans have to supplement with vitamin A. And Dr. McDougall and Dr. Greger and Dr. Furman all tell you this. If you don't take a blue-green algae supplement, and a lot of people think algae is a plant, but it's not. It's a bacteria. Those are cyanobacteria. So you either have to get vitamin A from eating animals, or you have to get vitamin A from eating bacteria. There is no plant source of vitamin A. And the majority of us are very poor converters of beta-carotene or alpha-carotene or any of the other carotenoids into vitamin A. And they'll tell you, you've got to supplement. And that's true. And so my argument would be any diet that it is mandatory that you take a list of supplements in order to be healthy. That's weird to me right on its face. And so if I took Kim Howerton and locked her in my barn and fed her nothing, no plants at all she could eat is ribeye and liver and eggs and butter. That's it. She could live in my barn to be 120, and she would not have to supplement a single vitamin or a single mineral, because they're all in there. And so Dr. McDougall, even he says, yeah, you got to supplement vitamin A and zinc and B12, because you just can't get that from plants. There's a reason, and that means that's not a healthy, complete diet.
Yeah. So, you're just probably not going to convince either Dr. Berry nor I to go vegan at any time. For more than a month.
But I'm happy to keep talking about it, because at least if somebody's vegan, at least they're thinking about the food they eat. And that's care. The first, that's right. They care and they're thinking about it. And that's the first step towards figuring out what the proper human diet is for you. If you're just eating whatever McDonald's shoved out the window at you, then you're not even thinking about diet and you're not ready. Right. But I love talking with vegans, because at least they're thinking about it.
Right. Mike has asked, can I continue to eat my dark chocolate bark on keto? I'm wondering if it's a keto form of dark chocolate, or were you talking about that and he's pulling my leg?
If you're eating a super dark chocolate that doesn't have much sugar in it at all, that's probably okay to have as an occasional treat. I don't believe that chocolate is good for you. I would love to believe that. I've looked at all the research. Yeah, if you get 100% cacao with no sugar, then that's probably not bad. But
some magnesium.
Most people don't like that. They want some sugar in their chocolate, and that's going to cancel any benefits that there may be.
Okay. It's been asked, how long after starting keto should you have your A1C checked?
Yeah.
And I would say before you start, and then continue to check it.
Yep. And so about every 3 months, you want to check the A1C. There's another test called a fructosamine, which you can see changing after a week or two of being keto. So if you don't want to wait 3 months to see your update, then check an A1C, a fructosamine, and a C-peptide right now. Then start keto, and then after 2 or 3 weeks, you can recheck the fructosamine, and you can see it going back down to normal. Whereas it takes about 3 months to see your A1C move much.
Right. So I've been told not to go in the bar.
Don't go in the bar. That's right. Dr. Bear will lock you in.
Okay. People always have these questions about what will break a fast. So Gail has asked, if I put MCT oil and butter in my coffee, will I break my fast?
I don't think so. The things that we know absolutely elevate your insulin enough to break the physiological fast that we're talking about is carbohydrates and protein. No doubt about it, that breaks your fast. So people who are putting collagen powder, protein powder in their fasting coffee, that's breaking your fast, 100%. But fat does definitely elevate your insulin level, a tiny, tiny little bump. But for most people, it doesn't elevate it enough to break the physiological fast that we're going for in order to get our body to burn fat, the fat that we store. Now, if you're putting half a stick of butter in your coffee, you got to burn all that fat before you start burning the fat on your butt. There's no doubt about that. But if you put just a little bit of fat, a little bit of butter, a little bit of MCT, whichever fat you like, just enough so that you're not hungry so you can extend your fast, then I think that's a useful tool to help you fast for longer.
Okay. So Paul had asked about keto bricks, okay, in little pieces. I find that keto bricks, though they do have a little bit of stevia in them, are nowhere near as triggering as a lot of keto sweets.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't recommend keto bricks, except for definitely if you're a backpacker, a hiker, a prepper, if you need lots of nutrition stored in a small space that lasts for a long time, you need some keto bricks, right? So, when everybody was getting toilet paper and Doritos, I would have been ordering some keto bricks because that's real nutrition that lasts for 2 or 3 years on the shelf, but it's full of fat and full of protein, and it's got a little bit of carb, but not too much. But I agree. I don't feel like keto bricks trigger me like other keto desserts. And I don't know if it's because they're literally like a brick. It's not really that much fun to eat them.
Look the same.
Yeah, they're not frou-frou. They're not cute. They don't have little bunnies on them. I mean, it's just a block of food. And so they don't trigger me.
Got it. Yeah. I think quite honestly, I go back and forth on products. They're a product and I try to limit my products, but of the products that I think are good, they're on the top of my list.
Me too. 100%.
Teresa has a question. She says she's a carnivore, so it doesn't really apply anymore, but why do apples kill her stomach cramps, fever, diarrhea, vomiting? That's a serious apple allergy response, it seems like. I don't know.
It could be any of the thousands of chemical compounds that are in the peeling and the flesh of the apple. It's hard to know which one's causing that, but I'm just glad that you've discovered that and you can avoid them.
Right. So apples are on the list of things that upset a lot of people's stomachs compared to other fruits.
Yep.
And so you're not, but your reaction is pretty extreme. And I would say, I don't know that it matters. I would just not eat them.
Yeah. Just don't eat them.
All right. Hold on. Somebody said they give keto bricks to their grandbabies instead of candy.
Perfect.
Great idea.
Perfect.
Denise asked, if one was to go to the hospital and receive IV fluids, is it possible to get those without glucose or sugar in the IV?
Yep. You just ask for normal saline. That's what they just say. I don't want any sugar. I don't want any glucose or dextrose in my IV fluids. I want normal saline. And there are a few specific diagnoses that they'll tell you to shut up. You need it. And that's okay if they, but what you don't want the doctor to do is to thoughtlessly order D5W or D5 normal saline. You don't want the D, right? And that stands for dextrose because they label it the old-fashioned way. Dextrose and glucose, same thing. But if you say, hey, I don't want any dextrose, I just want normal saline or lactated ringers, then they'll give you something that doesn't have dextrose or glucose in it. Unless you need it, then you need to shut up and let the doctor take care of you. But, yeah.
Yeah, and I will say, I guess this can vary from hospital to hospital because I've been in the hospital since keto, and I took the opportunity to ask them questions about this.
Yeah.
And they said, hey, unless you're diabetic
right.
or you have something going on when you're hyperglycemic, we're not going to give you that. Right. We're just going to give you plain saline.
Right. And every doctor, IV fluids are almost like a personal brand preference. Okay. This doctor likes lactated ringers. This doctor likes normal saline. And it's different. And so, unless there's a specific medical condition, most doctors will not give you dextrose in your IV fluids.
Right. But yeah, you can always have that conversation with the nurse that's helping you.
Yep.
Okay. Last question. Vicky says, if you have dawn phenomenon, should you eat earlier in the day in order to bring your blood sugar down? And I'll add a connection to this one. Some people will say that if you eat right before you go to bed, you'll wake up with lower blood sugars as well. So can you answer this subject?
So it depends on what you eat right at bedtime, whether your morning blood sugar is going to be higher or lower. Right. First of all. Secondly, I'm glad this came up because I need to say this out loud every so often because people who are coming to this way of eating, they learn about the dawn phenomenon, they're freaking out about it. The dawn phenomenon is a normal, natural thing that happens to every mammal on the planet every morning when they wake up. It is normal to have the dawn phenomenon. You're going to have a higher blood pressure and a higher blood sugar for about an hour after you wake up. It's normal. It's not bad. Don't try to fight it. Don't worry about it. What we're caring about is your average blood sugar and your average blood pressure over the course of the entire day. That's the number that actually matters. Don't worry about the dawn phenomenon. It's normal.
Okay. At what level? So when I hear people say dawn phenomenon, they're saying something like my blood sugar is usually in the 90s and then it's 110.
Yep. So they're still a little bit hyperglycemic. If that's the case, they still got some work to do, and they'll get there. Just keep keto on or carnivore on. You'll get there. Also, when you're eating a super low carbohydrate keto diet or a carnivore diet, sometimes your morning blood sugar will be the highest number you see all day, and that's because of the dawn effect. It's not bad. Don't worry about it. It's normal. It's okay. Don't worry about it.
At what number of blood sugar would you start to be concerned?
Well, if you're eating the standard American diet, any blood sugar above 100, I'd be concerned about. If you're eating a super low carb keto diet or a carnivore diet, then you might have a morning blood sugar of 95 or 100 or 105 or 110, but you'll have an A1C of 4.8. So it's okay. Your body knows what it's doing. What I think we've uncovered, Kim, is because, there's never been a population that ate just meat that we actually checked A1Cs on and checked blood sugars all the time. That's never been done before. We're the first population.
Right.
And so I think we're uncovering a normal physiological process where when you eat a super low carb diet, you're going to have a higher morning blood sugar. Right. And then it'll come down over the course of the day. But then your average blood sugar, which is what the A1C tells you, it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be 5.1 or 4.9 or 5.2. So your overall blood sugar is doing amazingly well, but you still got that high morning blood sugar. Don't worry about it. It's okay. It's normal.
The two ladies who I've lost now, Margie and Vicky, both said their blood sugar is up in the morning and won't start to come down until they eat.
Yeah. And that may be coincidental, or it may be related to eating a high-fat, high-protein breakfast, bacon and eggs. Wouldn't surprise me if their blood sugar started to come down, because what's going to happen from the protein in the bacon and eggs, their insulin's going to go up. And that's going to pull the blood sugar down, as well as all the other jobs that insulin does. So, yeah. But you don't feel like you have to eat breakfast in order to pull your blood sugar down. That there's no physiological reason that would be necessary.
Right. And I'm sorry for the people that have written in questions. That was our last question, but join us next week and we can answer some more. And I do think people need a bit of a primer. Do you have a good video on blood sugars? Because it sometimes feels like people don't understand or just need a better lay of the land.
I've got a YouTube video about the Dawn phenomenon. Okay. And then I've got the Diabetes 101 playlist is going to have every video in it that relates in any way to blood sugar and insulin and C-peptide and all that stuff. The Diabetes 101 playlist would be where to start.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks for joining me, Dr. Berry.
It's always a pleasure, Kim. You look lovely tonight, by the way.
Thank you. I put on some color.
Ah, nice. I love it.
All right. All right. We'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.
See ya.
Thank you so much for joining us on Keto Life Support. If you'd like more, you can join our friendly Facebook group, Keto Life Support. Can't find it? Go to ketolifesupport.com. If you ever want to suggest a topic for discussion, that would be the place to do it. We'd really, really appreciate it if you would go to your podcast app and subscribe, because that's awesome. And what would be super awesome is if you'd be so kind as to write a review for us. Though we would love it if that review was awesome, just writing a review is all we ask. So have a fabulous keto week, and we'll see you next time.